I'm Mark Seifter.
And I'm Linda Zayas-Palmer.
And this is Arcane Mark. Welcome everyone to Arcane Mark Asks Diego Valdez. We have we have Diego. Look, he's there.
Welcome,
Customer
Diego.
Service Representative Extraordinaire.
Thanks for joining us
I'm
tonight.
extraordinaire.
Yes. I think you have to be Customer Service Representative Extraordinaire. You're like the second in command customer service representative right behind Sarah Marie. That means you should get an extraordinaire or something.
Well, it mostly means I have to go to meetings sometimes.
You know what though? But since you have to go to meetings sometimes, and that's not always a good thing, an extraordinaire it is a good thing. So
I didn't actually get to put extraordinaire below your name because customer service representative is just pretty much a longer title than we've had below anyone's name yet. So already I was going to a lower font size there.
So we already have a comment from Ular Warlord, Diego, that you were extremely helpful with Ular Warlord's order the other day.
Oh, thank you. I try to be. I appreciate that.
So before we get into the questions we ask everybody, I just want to tell everyone that even before I ever worked at Paizo, when I was just a customer at Paizo, Paizo's customer service has just, in my opinion, is one of the best customer service teams that's around. They will get the job done, rain or shine, or whatever is happening. Every time I've ever screwed something up, it's usually been my fault. Somehow customer service has figured it out. Like the time that I accidentally forgot that my huge number of years of Dragon Magazine subscriptions that were supposed to turn into Pathfinder AP subscriptions, and I forgot about it and missed it until like Jade Regent was coming out, and they had it activate starting with Jade Regent, even though it was supposed to activate probably with Rise of the Runelords. When I clicked yes, that's what I wanted to do. So customer service is awesome.
You probably talked to Cosmo then. He was in customer service at that time.
It's possible that it was Cosmo who did it. I think it might have been Sarah Marie. It was whatever was when Jade Regent was like the newest AP, and it totally transferred immediately and seamlessly. Apparently, surprisingly, the system was built to be able to handle that very well without having to do much. But as far as I knew, it was pretty great.
So, Diego, what's the story behind the Go Diego Go sign behind you?
Oh, so this is behind me is my wall of cool things that people have written me and done for me. So,
oh wow,
like it's a lot of like birthday cards and things coworkers have made for me, and like going away cards when I moved over here, and all kinds of stuff like that. So,
any tomatoes back there, or are they just eaten already?
Oh, the tomatoes go in my belly right away.
Okay. And Elf Tarot says that you were really great just before the launch too, Diego. So you must have had something before the launch that Elf Tarot needed.
We had it was a difficult authorization, so maybe that's the.
All right. So we have some Leshies in the chat, and just so everyone knows that Gourd Leshy and the Arcane Failure are still pending on Twitch. So theoretically, they have to quote finish their window before our next episode on Saturday. Unfortunately, we don't have extra Leshies for Diego, but we do have the basic Leaf Leshy. Rico the Bolt said that Diego spent a crazy amount of time on his days off going in and making the auth machine keep authing. And Elftro says,
Yeah.
Yep, real MVP. All right.
Well, thank you guys. It was rough.
All right. So let's start, and we're getting some other questions in chat, but before we go to them, let's start with our questions we always ask. So, Diego, how did you start with, get started playing Pathfinder?
Playing Pathfinder? Well, I played a lot of D&D 3rd Edition with some of my friends back home, and when it switched over to 4th Edition, we were not it was not the game for us, and so we gave Pathfinder a try. I met up with a few people on the Paizo boards. In fact, I had posted a thread about, hey, who's in Albuquerque and would like to try this out? And so I met up with a few folks, and they became my longest going gaming group forever. We did the playtest, and we still even played a little while after I moved here over Skype.
Oh wow. You said you played Second Darkness for the playtest, is that right?
Yeah, we did Second Darkness for the playtest. So
What do you think of Second Darkness?
we did a round robin GMing thing, so that made it a little bit challenging. Most of the game was a lot of fun. I enjoyed all of the characters and the dynamic we had. Um, so it was mostly a fun game.
Sounds awesome. Okay. Well, so you're like an OG Pathfinder. You were there for the beta, for all the time that Pathfinder RPG existed. Diego has been there. All right. So, but how did you get started working at Paizo then?
So at the time, I was the front end manager of a tool store back in Albuquerque, and I had put in for the assistant manager of the store position, which had just opened up, and I got a little. I was a little frustrated with the company for a variety of reasons, and I had a really, really, really rough day, and I came home and I was looking at the boards on Paizo, and I saw that there was an opening for a customer service person, and I just decided, oh, what the heck, I'm gonna apply for it. I wasn't expecting to get it because I lived on the other side of the country. So that year was also the first year I was ever going to go to Gen Con, and so I'd set my subscriptions for Gen Con pickup. So I got an email from Sarah Marie that said, "Oh, I see that you're going to Gen Con. Can we interview you there?" And so yeah, I went to Gen Con and I got interviewed at Gen Con in the Paizo booth.
Oh man, did you get to go to that secret room that I see every year, but I never get to go into until we're tearing it down, where all of like the very special meetings with the most specialist people happen?
Yes, I got
Oh
to sit
man,
in there with both Sarah Marie and Jeff.
I've never gotten to sit there before. That's a big honor.
Mm-hmm. So
Yeah,
then,
it was a room with a table, so it was pretty exciting.
ooh, did it have chairs too?
There were. I think Jeff had to bring them in though. I don't think they were already in there.
So you didn't have Lisa? Did you?
No,
Did
so I didn't get to.
did either of Jeff or Sarah Marie ask about your favorite animal?
No, and so I missed out on that because nobody at Paizo knew that my favorite animal was a cow.
Okay, but now we all know.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yup, Cisco the kid in the chat knew it was a cow before you said cow.
Yeah. Well, Cisco is one of my longtime friends, and
Oh,
he
well, okay. In that
from
case,
back home.
you better know Cisco the kid. I was just impressed that it was some Paizo, like some Paizo person or person from Arcane Mark is like the Arcane Mark community is actually ridiculously smart and very very good at picking up and finding things. So I wasn't like that surprised, but now I'm not surprised at all. It's just
Mm-hmm.
Diego's friend.
Hey, you
Yeah,
wasn't just
I'm not
Diego's
very
friend.
shy about
Welcome,
my love for
Diego's friend.
cows.
Yes. All right. So that's pretty cool. So did you find out right away that they were really enthusiastic from the interview, or was it just like you went through all of Gen Con being like, I don't know what's going to happen?
I felt that it was that they knew whether they were going to hire me or not right away. Like, I walked out and I told. In fact, Cisco was the friend that went with me to Gen Con that year.
Oh,
And I walked out and I told him, so either they're absolutely going to hire me or they're absolutely not.
Huh. So what about the interview gave you that feeling?
So as I got near the end of the interview, Sarah Marie had been asking me a lot of questions, and Jeff had a few, but not a whole lot. But right near the end, Sarah Marie asked him if he had any questions for me, and he leaned way back in his chair and folded his arms over his chest and said, "I've heard everything I need to."
Wow.
The thing is, I could imagine Jeff saying that even if he like that just sounds like something he would probably say in an interview.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I knew he had made up his mind already.
Sounds good.
So how many years ago was that now?
That'll be 5 years ago. Actually, it was at Gen Con, so it was 5 years ago, 2 weeks ago.
Multiple people in chat say that sounds very ominous. So you weren't spooked at all by that?
I kind of had accepted that I was either in or not.
Okay,
And
fair enough.
since I had been expecting not because I lived so far away and everything, in sounded good, and not was where I already was. So
That's fair enough. All right, super cool. So we have several questions from chat, and I want to add some questions of my own in there, but first we'll do some from chat. And Linda, of course, has some questions that she might ask you too. So first one is from Rocket Lettuce. Who is your favorite customer to talk on the phone with, and why is it Rocket Lettuce, who is also known as Brian if you know him from other places?
I do know him. He told me some really nice things at PaizoCon about my about the seminar I was on, which was really cool because I am always terrified that I am awful on things. So that was really
I
awesome.
heard through the grapevine you were good on that seminar, but you know Linda was running it, so the grapevine is like pretty revealed.
He was though.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
So you've now explained why it was Brian who was your favorite. But on the phone though, have you actually even talked to him on the phone or only at PaizoCon?
I have talked to him on the phone.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. It's I think sometimes when I talk to people on the phone, I'm not always like I don't always like announce that I recognize who they are when I see like what their name is or their forum name is and stuff. But I usually recognize most of the people that I talk to on the phone when I bring up their accounts or hear their name.
All right, cool.
What's your speaking
Brian
of
said he made sure you recognized.
That's really impressive that you can recognize that many people.
Yeah, well, you know, we end up going on the boards a lot, mostly in the customer service forum, but we also do like a little bit of forum moderation. So a lot of the people who post frequently and stuff like that kind of stick in my brain. PaizoCon and Gen Con are always really neat to me because I get to put faces with all of those names and voices when I see people's badges with their names on them. So that's always really cool to me.
All right. So Alex Agunas has said the following 26 character statement. Diego.
He's excited.
Hello.
So yeah, so you mentioned that you're on the forums quite a bit, and people who are on the forums are aware of that, but that's not necessarily something that people would realize comes as a part of the customer service position. So what goes into being a customer service representative at Paizo?
So I spend most of my days answering emails and replying to people, answering phone calls. We do go through the forums through the customer service forums pretty regularly. Some of us go over forum moderation as well. Sam mostly is the one who does that, but when I see big out of control threads, you might see me show up. So I think most people who see me on the boards are probably associate me with comments about, okay, everybody behave yourselves.
So, no, he hasn't yet. So Alex brought up that he remembers hearing that you have a kick-ass toy collection. He wants to know more about your toys.
Oh, so toys are a big thing that I enjoy, and I spend a lot of time collecting toys and learning about toy industry and all kinds of stuff like that. Toys is probably what I should have gone into as a career. But yeah, I have probably in the neighborhood of 200 Transformers, probably around 50 or so Star Wars Black Series figures, pretty close to that with Marvel Legends figures. I have an entire collection of Eagle Moss Star Trek ships. So I have a lot of stuff.
Wow. Do you have any that you have on hand as a prop that you want to show in front of the camera?
I have a few Transformers here with me. I have my masterpiece Optimus Prime.
Oh, we could see him in the background, yeah.
Yeah, he's sitting back here by my desktop. I also have some of my original G1 Transformers. So these would be the ones from the 80s. So there's a Grimlock, and I have
OG.
a Sludge. The neat thing about Sludge is he's not even a Hasbro one. He has a Takara Diaclone toy. So
Huh.
before the Transformers even existed, this is what became a Transformer.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. And so I have all of the other Dinobots up here as well. And you can probably, let me turn this a little bit. You can see my collection of giant dragon miniatures.
Oh
Those are the
wow.
old
Yeah, I have
Wizards of
that
the
red
Coast
one
ones.
and the black one.
Yeah, so I have all those except for the Green Dragon because they never made one. So that is the Paizo Green Dragon from the Pathfinder battles.
Uh-huh.
And then up there you can see a little
Oh,
bit
the
of
Star
my
Trek ships.
Oh
yeah
yeah.
my lineage of enterprises.
That's cool.
Yeah, so yeah, toys are a thing I probably should have made a career out of.
There are a large number of reactions from Twitch of sick, OMG, oh my, so cool, whoa, serious knowledge about the toys. That's basically what everyone is saying as soon as they started seeing those toys.
So
So,
now I'm
Oh,
curious.
nice.
How did it go from those dinosaurs turn into the Transformers?
So Transformers have a really interesting history, and it starts with GI Joe. So GI Joe was originally a tall doll that you could dress up, very similar to Barbie, because Barbie has traditionally been the highest selling toy ever, almost constantly since its inception. And so companies are often looking for what they call the Barbie killer, basically the toy that can outsell Barbie. And so GI Joe was kind of that. He was just a guy version. So he was just a specific guy that you could buy these little sets of clothing for and set piece stuff for. And you could dress him up and put him in like action positions and all of that sort of thing. And so when Hasbro was trying to market that out outside of the US, they ended up marketing it to a company called Takara in Japan. And Takara, it turned out that like at that time, U.S. soldier toys were not big sellers in Japan. Um, so, but Hasbro just kind of left Takara alone because they kept getting their licensing checks, and eventually, a few years later, in the very early '80s, they were at the Hasbro representatives were at a toy fair in Japan and decided to go to the Takara table and see what was going on. And Takara had these Transformers there. At the time, they were several different lines. One was called Diaclone, and one was called Car Robots. Um, and what had happened is, over the years, Takara had started making modifications to GI Joe um, to make him more appealing to things. And since Hasbro didn't really care what they did, Hasbro didn't know any of this was happening. And over the years, he had evolved into a cyborg and then eventually into mechas. Um, and
of course he
and
did.
so and so the uh, the Hasbro reps thought that these Diaclone and Car Robot toys were really cool and wanted to license them from Takara. So in some ways, they were licensing their own product. Um, but then that became the Transformers. They had to go to market really quick um, because GoBots were already hitting the market. So Transformers actually showed up in the U.S. later than the GoBots did. So what they ended up doing was just buying a whole bunch of stock of these toys that Takara had and throwing some sticker sheets in the boxes with them and sending them out to market. And those were the first Transformers.
That's
Oh
cool.
man. And so yours are the Takara ones from before they were Transformers, the ones that they would have seen in
Uh,
Japan when they went to that toy fair.
yeah, just this one. The
Okay.
others are the Hasbro ones, but this is a Takara Diaclone figure.
Okay.
But it
Super
does
cool.
have the Hasbro stickers that were put in the box, so you can see the Autobot symbol there.
All right.
Oh yeah.
So there were a few questions that we skipped because the toy question was too good. So let's go back to some of those. So No Heart the Shark says, as a person who never calls customer service, what is the most common issue people call about?
Probably payment method failures, because those can happen for a whole variety of reasons. but the one we get most commonly is going to be an address verification failure, which means that when our card processor talks to your bank about whether or not this card is going to be good, your bank sometimes will say yes and then send us the information that we need to compare to make sure the card is valid. Our card processor will then look at that and say, oh no, these billing addresses don't match. We can't accept this. It might be fraudulent. And so on your end, on the customer's end, that can look like a pending transaction on your card because your bank has put the money aside because they're expecting a charge to come through later. So on your end, what you're getting is an email from us saying your card was declined, but you can still see a pending transaction on your bank account. And that will get, your bank will expire those. If they don't get finalized in a few days, the bank just removes them like they were never there. But it can be a kind of panicky thing because it looks like you're getting charged. So those are going to be that's address verification failures are the most common thing we get contacted for, I think.
That makes sense. Then there were a couple other people who, one of them is Stunt Monkey, who represents the online venture officers, and wanted to thank you so much for all the effort to get the venture officers their scenarios and events.
Oh, sure, I do what I can.
Stray wanted to thank you for several times that you helped with subscription problems via emails and on the forums. And
sure thing.
Then we have another question, which is from Uller Warlord. With so many cool toys, have you ever been tempted to sort of repurpose those to use in your tabletop games? And if so, how did you do so?
I do like to try to do that because of the various differences in scale for them. It's not always super easy. But I do like to find some toys that I can use as like bad guys or even that I can use in the place of miniatures. So like running a Star Wars game, at once I didn't have much in the way of Star Wars miniatures, but I had a ton of action figures. So using the Star Wars action figures in place of the miniatures was a thing that I did. So I've tried out various ways over the years to try to incorporate toys into my gaming, and not always successfully.
I can imagine taking like some masking tape and drawing hexes on the ground to make like a Starfinder battle map, and then putting all of your ships onto there, and just having like massive scale space combat.
I have to admit that after getting that colossal red dragon, I wanted to use it. So in addition to forcing Linda and her crew to fight a actual colossal red dragon in one of the campaigns, I had a situation that came up earlier that was much lower level where the PCs were shrunk down to the size of like this tall, and they had to fight a pseudo dragon that I used the colossal red dragon. They hadn't realized they were shrunk because they were like in a tiny miniature village, and so the pseudo dragon was that much bigger than them.
They were pretty tiny then.
Yep. But it is fun to try to use toys for sure.
And then there's that one Pathfinder Society scenario that had a colossal creature that comes out and attacks you. And that was really fun. It was like, it doesn't look like this, but here's the scale. Foomp. And it just lands with such a satisfying thud on the battle map. And then all the players' eyes go wide. Like, with that size of what? Yeah, that thing.
Because it's terrifying.
Yeah, right? Alright, so we made it through most of chat's questions. Here's another question for you, Diego. Given that this is like an uplifting interview, I don't want to ask about like any negative experiences, but can you tell us like a heartwarming story from customer service? Because I know there are heartwarming stories that come as well sometimes. You guys often forward them to us so that we could see them.
Yeah, like anytime we get a really nice email from people, I try to forward them off to everybody in the company so that everybody can enjoy them, because they certainly make all of our days nicer. So I have a few. My favorite one though is one from before I worked at Paizo. I was the inventory manager at Borders bookstore for many years, and there was a time a woman had come into the store and she was looking for a fantasy book for her son. She didn't really know what he was interested in, just that he liked fantasy, and he was in the military and was at the time deployed in the Middle East, and this was probably in the mid 2000s, so maybe 2009. And so we went through and we looked through all of the books, and I got her we got some more lighthearted ones that were kind of fun and easy and that sort of thing. And so then the next week she came in again, and we went and looked for more books, and we would chat while we did it because she usually came in on a weekday when it was really slow. So I had time to just kind of chat with her while we did that. And this went on for a couple of months, and then she stopped coming in. And then one day, this guy who was in his mid-20s came in, and he had asked for me specifically. And when you are a manager of a store and somebody asks for you specifically, I wasn't looking forward to whatever this was going to be. And so I went over to talk to him, and he wasn't there to buy anything. It turned out he was her son, and he had come back home, and he wanted to come in and thank me for helping his mother find all of those books, because they helped him get through a very difficult time for him. And he also wanted to thank me for spending all the time chatting with his mom that I did, because she had been very anxious and kind of lonely and that sort of thing. And I guess it had really helped her that, I was willing to just kind of hang out with her in the store for a little while whenever she came in. So that was a very awesome and moving thing.
That's really sweet.
Yeah, because you never really, like, when you're doing jobs, you never really think that, like, especially like in retail and customer service, like, I know that I help people with orders, but I never really think that, like, the things I do have a larger impact on people beyond they're buying the thing. So that was really awesome.
So,
thanks for the cheers, GM Reckless and Mr. Liquid.
And somehow it said GM Reckless's cheers shared rewards to 3 other in the chat, which I don't even know what that is, but that sounds really cool. There are multiple hearts, a pride winged rainbow ringed leshy with a star that says magical, and
awesome.
a lot of reactions like that here, Diego. So.
Oh, good. Thank you all.
It's a very moving story.
Yeah.
I actually hadn't heard that one from you before,
either.
so
that sounds like a
it.
Diego thing to do, though.
Yep, that's pretty indicative of what I would expect from Diego.
Thank you.
Thanks for the cheers, Stump Monkey. And this is why. This is another example, even though it wasn't with Paizo, why we just have an amazing customer service team, and I'm so happy to be able to have Diego here to interview, because, I mean, how many times have we interviewed the customer service team at Paizo before? Not that many times. And you guys' work is pretty thankless, and I think it deserves a lot of thanks. And we're sorry. We're sorry that. Every time we do an errata that, like, changes the power level of broken things.
Or every time we're running behind and late on something that we said that we were going to do for organized play, and then people get angry on the forums.
And we know you guys get those rules questions. And, like, how often do you get the rules questions? Oh, thanks for the cheer, Ular Warlord. It's a Go Diego Go cheer.
Oh, that's awesome. Thank you. Yeah, we do get rules questions. We can't answer rules questions, which also kind of frustrates the people who are calling to ask us the rules questions. So those are always a little difficult, because I always feel bad having to tell people that we don't answer rules questions. We are mostly not as familiar with all of the rules as, like, you guys in the design or development teams. So even if we could answer rules questions, they're not probably any more right than whatever you would get from other people on the forums. So
yeah, you can make Sam answer them.
I think if we were allowed to, both Sam and me probably would. And I don't know that they would be right or what people would want to hear. I would probably make things up, which probably wouldn't be helpful.
Yeah, that would be great. Whoa, I got an emote thanks to Elftro's Mega Cheer. I guess that's what the rewards are.
Thanks, Elftro.
Thanks so much. Wow, that was a great...
That's cool.
Great cheer.
That was 5 unicorn hearts followed by the message, Diego is wholesome.
Yep.
That's
People
pretty
got
awesome.
like
Thank
fighting
you.
peppers and sodas, and I got like some kind of another fish. So now I have both a pride fish and a fight sardine. I think. Let me put them both up on the pride saba and the fight sardine up on here.
Star Monkey has a good point. If you answered one rules question, you'd have a phone ringing 24/7 with
That's
people
right.
asking you for more answers.
Probably.
That's
And then
true.
there-
And I think the reason it happens is because way back when with uh, uh, D&D used to have phone lines that you could call in to get rules questions, and I think a lot of people got
They
kind of
did.
used to that and kind of expect us to have it too.
They had like a pay line that you could call in and ask rules questions, I think, or something like that.
Yeah.
Uh, uh, Steven from Over Comment says, now we just call Mark. Well, the funny thing is that like there used to be when I was kind of newer at Paizo for a little while. There were times when people would send in like bunker down for the FAQs, like pastries or cookies or other baked goods to customer service and the design team, being like, we know what's going to happen on the forum, so both of your teams need this. So here we've worked together to get this from like a local bakery or something like that, and that did happen a
Hmm.
few times from
We,
like a few people that were kind of into it. So
well,
how
YouTube.
recently is the last time customer service has gotten a care package?
So you two have probably seen this, but if you go by the customer service area, you'll see that we have a big bookshelf, and on the top of it is just several bottles of alcohol. And that is because often when a pretty nightmarish thread comes up that we're going to have to moderate,
Uh-oh.
shows up, like a day or two later, just some booze will show up addressed to us. So we have, I think, like 3 or 4 bottles of whiskey and a couple of bottles of rum, and all that just kind of lined up on the top of this bookshelf.
Thanks for the cheer and emoji
Yeah,
share,
thanks so
Strayo.
much, Strayo. So that cheer caused 6 people to get a reward, including a fighting flying spaghetti monster.
Ooh, nice.
I'm not sure what this mechanic is, but it seems to give like an increasing number of people emojis the more cheers people have done. So Rex Liquid did one for the rum after the alcohol thing.
Thanks, Rex Liquid.
Thanks so much.
Yeah.
So
Oh, it's a food fight thing, kind of like the Pride promotion.
oh, it's a special food price
Gotcha,
promotion.
that's
Okay,
cool.
that makes sense. Now, I mean did sort of seem like what it was. And it explains why I have a one-winged Sephiroth Pride Angel, because I have the left wing but not the right wing, because Elf Trail has both, and we'll do rainbow winged like Micah for when Katina came on and other things like that. All right. So let's see. We were talking about the alcohol for the really tough threads. So what is your process, Diego, when you see it's a really tough thread? It's got like on the in-house starring system, it has like 15 stars and is like 50 flags in 22 posts. What is your process for handling with that situation? Starting from when you see the problem that it's there on the thread.
So I start to look at the boards. Often this happens at home because I don't have a lot of time to look at the boards unless I'm specifically moderating at work. And then I will see 100 stars on a thread. And for all of you that aren't Paizo employees, a star on a thread, which only we can see, denotes a certain number of flags on that thread. And so each star represents X number of flags. So if I see a thread that has 22 stars on it, whew,
That's more than 22 flags.
Yeah,
By a lot.
I don't know exactly how many flags make up a star, but it's a lot of flags. So I see that and I stare at it for a little while, and then I groan, and then I open the thread so I can start reading it. And so it's kind of the forum moderation is kind of we have some loose guidelines that we follow, and so mostly I'm trying to go through and uh, take out anything that is kind of being too combative, too aggressive, is being maybe kind of jerkish. Basically, we want people to be nice to each other on the boards. You can disagree about things and still be nice and pleasant and civil, and that's what we want. So I'm mainly looking to just cut out the things that are not that. Sometimes it can be a little challenging because uh, if you have to remove a post, we also have to remove any of the posts that quote that post. So sometimes I come across some posts that are like really well thought out, and I would love to keep, but because they quote the thread that the post that had to be removed, I have to remove it, and I always feel kind of bad doing that because there's there ends up being some really neat content that I wish could stay that gets removed that way.
I know I've moderated maybe like 1% of as much as you have, Diego, but if I really like something and it's not really a response, well, or like they respond and then have something really really good, I sometimes PM the text of that is not a response to the person. Be like, here is the, in case you don't have it, the entire text of this really good thing, and you're welcome to repost this part of it that's not responding to a removed post. But I've done that like
Yeah,
3 times maybe ever.
Hmm.
yeah. Well, and one of the things is that anybody who wants to get some text back, so if you did quote a post that got removed and yours got removed, you can always contact us and we can get you that your text back, so you can repost it without the quote. So that's something that folks can do. It's just we end up removing a lot of posts and things, so it's hard to message everyone to tell them that. So we kind of rely on people contacting us to be like, hey, can I get what I posted back so I can change it up a little bit and post it again?
Hmm.
And so yeah, if you contact us, we're willing to do that.
In fact, we can see it forever. It's there.
Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah.
That actually was an issue one time when somebody wanted me to remove a post because they didn't want to offend a Paizo staffer who I knew would be able to read it if I removed it. So I removed it and just replaced it with the word deleted
Hmm.
at the request of poster.
Hmm.
Mhm.
Yeah. So let's say, Diego, that I'm in a thread and I am angry and someone has been saying things that I read them and I think that's a personal attack on me. How would you recommend that I respond in this circumstance?
I will tell you what I often even post on my moderator comments, which is, before you push submit on your post, look over it, read it over. If you can't phrase it in a way that isn't aggressive or attacking or anything like that, that's a good chance to step away from the thread for a little while until you can calm down a little bit more. Maybe do something else for a little while, go for a walk, really anything that gets you away from the thread long enough for you to be able to kind of um, re reconstruct your post in a more constructive way.
Aha.
I think that's good advice in life in general when you're about to send any kind of message that's angry or emotionally charged, giving yourself some distance from it before hitting that send button.
Yeah,
It's very chill. I like to think of it to read the most positive possible way that someone could have possibly meant whatever they were saying, and just assume that it's that until it's really, really proved beyond a doubt otherwise.
yeah.
What would you
I'm
suggest, Diego, for somebody who was posting on a message board and they felt like someone else was not violating any of the rules per se, but they were just sort of being manipulative to the conversation in a way that skirted any violation. You couldn't really flag it, but that was just creating a very negative vibe or otherwise causing you distress.
so like I said, our forum rules are kind of loose, and that is largely so that we can make judgment calls on things. We also don't really want for people to be able to look at a set of rules, and it's a community of gamers. People are going to try to game those rules. So we have a little bit of leeway in being able uh, to to maybe determine if something like that really needs to be there or if we can remove it.
That makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that is very cool. And Diego, in addition to everyone who's on the chat, I thank you for your service in having to deal with some of these threads. I've seen them. I've been the one to flag many of the times, or even sometimes literally send you a private message saying, Diego, I not only flagged this, but I need you to look at it as soon as you can.
Yeah.
So,
I get those every once in a while from various staff members.
it's like,
hey,
Diego,
here's a link.
It's slavery again. Please look at
No.
it.
That's
Oh
like-
no.
Don't say the S
Oh.
word.
Yeah, please no more of those threads.
Mm-hmm. So, on the opposite end of those threads, what are there particular threads on Paizo.com that you are excited about that you really like to see, or types of threads?
Yeah, I generally enjoy reading people kind of discussing Galarian lore, because that's a thing that I generally enjoy. It's kind of the thing that got me into RPGs was reading like Forgotten Realms novels, and then one day seeing a Forgotten Realms box set at Hastings and being like, "Oh, this is a game," and so lots of lore things are what I'm really interested in. So I really enjoy when we get these gigantic discussions going on. There's one about Arcadia stuff that started a few years ago, but has a couple thousand posts at this point, I think. And that one has been really entertaining to me.
Stunt Monkey
I don't
asks,
think I've seen that one.
what about Succubus in a grapple thread? Stunt Monkey is wondering.
I thought we were not
I am
clearing
familiar with the
Diego.
thread. It's one that I probably spend less time in than others.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, there we go.
I think it's really fun when people create those positive threads to be like, you know, what are things that we really like about this book, or what are things we really like about this program or whatever, and then you just read through those. And the
Yeah.
GM threads, I like those too, because you can get a lot of good collaboration going in those.
Oh yeah, they're very useful. For me, they're always very useful to learn to be a better GM.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Cool. So let's see. We talked a little bit about your moderation duties and sort of about taking calls and answering emails and on the forums. What other typical duties of customer service are ones that like we on the outside don't think about, but that you also have to handle?
We do a lot of the administrative stuff for Paizo that I think kind of disappears in the shuffle of things. We also spend a lot of time interfacing with both the tech team and the warehouse. All three of these departments are kind of a lot more interconnected than you might think. So a sizable chunk of my day is spent talking to tech team about various issues that may be going on our internal software or on our website. A lot of my time is spent running orders up and down from to the warehouse team. Sometimes they have some that they're having trouble shipping, so they get them back to me so I can take them up to my desk and try to figure out what's going on with them. So yeah, we spend a lot of our day interfacing with both of those two departments a lot.
And I guess you receive snail mail sometimes too, right?
Occasionally, not a whole lot of it. We get a lot of, when it comes to snail mail, we get mostly a lot of prison letters. Prisoners are, well, prisoners and military both are really big in RPG stuff. So we get a lot of prison mail, and we occasionally will get some physical letters from like kids who are doing a project for school and that sort of thing. So those can be kind of fun. I do enjoy a lot of those, especially if it's something where are going to send the kids something and I can wander around the office and get everybody to sign it.
Wasn't there one that came in from a kid that like doodled a bunch of monsters?
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah,
we
I saw that
sometimes
one.
get like some art and stuff like that too. The art is always kind of neat. Unfortunately, when it's like other stuff, we we can't accept any unsolicited material for a variety of reasons. So when people send us things they've written and stuff like that, it's always kind of a bummer because we can't read it.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense. So GM Reckless and Ular Warlord have shamelessly requested if you can press whatever buttons you need to in order to bump their subscriptions up in the queue.
Yeah,
I'll see what I can do.
Okay, there you go. Hey, you know what? If you have the shameless request skill feat, that means that even if Diego doesn't do it, and you critically fail, he won't decrease his attitude towards you because that's what it does.
He said, "I'll see what I can do."
Yeah, he'll see what he can do.
It doesn't mean that anything would actually happen.
No, but he'll see what he can do. I mean, you guys all cheered for him, so.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you did.
So, are any of the cards and letters and things on the wall behind you from Paizo customers?
No, because customers things I generally leave at work, but I do keep those too when they're nice and fun ones. And in customer service, we also have a little internal wiki that we call "Nice Things Our Customers Said to Us." And so when we get nice emails or forum posts or things like that, we will put it in that wiki page. And if you address it, if you're talking about a specific person, we will make sure to include their name on that. So if any of us go through it later, we can read all of these nice things and see who helped you out and who you really enjoyed talking with or working with and that sort of thing.
So speaking of physical objects you guys have over there, that reminds me from a callback to an earlier episode. What can you tell me from your side of the Sharktina thing? Because
Okay,
we heard Katina's side of the Sharktina.
So Katina had just got married and she was going on her honeymoon. And so it was just Sharia and me in customer service. And Katina is a lot of fun to have around. She's very funny. And all of us always enjoy being around her. So it was kind of sad not having her there. So we found one of those stuffed IKEA sharks, and we went onto her Facebook and we printed out a picture of her, and we taped it to the shark, and we sat it down in her chair with its flippers on the keyboard, so that it looked like it was typing. And then we named it Sharktina, and we would ask it customer service questions, and Sharktina became part of our team. So now we when somebody's out and things like that, we always talk about bringing in Sharktina to fill in. And when we were looking for another customer service person, when the position opened up, like when Shreya left us, or when Katina went to the other department, we will often talk about maybe we should just hire Sharktina full time.
There we go.
And now you could always bring in Sharktina because Katina is in another department. So
I just want to get this on the record so that I can tell Katina, depending on the answer. You just said you find that she's very funny and you find her humorous. Does that mean that you can take her punishment in a way that caused you not to groan? What?
It was a pun about punishment.
I think I give Katina a lot more crap about puns than I really actually feel.
Okay.
Because puns are one of her favorite things. She gets really excited at any opportunity to make puns, and every time she talks is an opportunity to make puns. So I think I give her more crap about how much I hate puns than I actually feel.
So Diego, do you just sort of enjoy sometimes being impish about people's favorite things? Like, can you tell people a little bit about your archaeology jokes with John Compton?
Yes. So I don't know if all of you know, but John Compton, his background is he's an archaeologist, and so he is also my roommate. And so there will often be times where I say we play video games, but what happens is I play video games and John watches because he wants to get the story, but isn't necessarily interested in the game mechanic and playing the game. And so I had started playing the Tomb Raider game, the newer one, and I, I realized how much this pained him when we got to a scene where you're way up in the mountains and it's all snowy and there's a wrecked ship there for some reason. And so you climb all over the ship and you're breaking pieces of it off as you climb. You climb the mast and then you hop over to the other place and the mast falls off. And John was just horrified at all of this because you're wrecking this thing. And you get to the end of it and there is this big this kind of box thing, and you go and Laura opens it up and inside is this beautiful illuminated manuscript that is in great condition, and it is a priceless find basically. And Laura kind of looks at it for a second and this little like +1 archery appears at the bottom of the screen, and then she just walks away from it, leaving it there in the snow exposed to the elements. And John's eyes just became dinner plates, and he put his hands over his face and he squealed, "That's priceless!" and so from then on out, it became my thing to just anytime I blow something up in a video game, I tell him that I am doing archaeology. We are playing the Spider-Man game and a truck wrecked into a car, and I told him that truck just excavated the crap out of that car.
Oh man.
And,
John tells a story about a mosaic that was a priceless mosaic that you just smashed through to get to a secret passage in Tomb Raider also.
Yeah, he was, that was another moment of him just like, in that one he didn't even cover his mouth, his hands went up in his head.
So, you even got the quiver of the fingers there.
Yep.
Yeah, and so I will even go to the office and try to see if I can get other people to tell him about archaeology.
Diego, I didn't tell you, but I'll tell you here on the stream so they can all hear. But we were doing a little meeting. It was sort of like a lesson on alchemical and magical items, and John said, "But could you make different kinds of mutagens that were at different levels?" And I was saying that for item bonuses, we probably want them to be the same levels because those are the levels that give those bonuses. But I said you could make an archaeology mutagen that is totally different levels, and maybe it turns your hands into shovels, and then the higher level one turns them into bulldozers. And then he had the same thing where his eyes went wide, he threw up his hands for the bulldozers for archaeology. So I was doing your thing, Diego, like you tell us to.
Yep.
I also like to just tell him ridiculous things and then just really stand behind those things no matter how much he tries to tell me they're wrong. So in playing Civilization 6, I had you get these little sea turtle luxury resource things, right, that you can find on the map. Mm-hmm. So I told him that those are my sea turtle mines. And he got really flustered about that's not how that works. That's not what that is at all. And I just kept insisting to him that yes, John, they're the mines where you get sea turtles. You mine sea turtles there. And it gets him really, really flustered when I do things like that.
All right. Sounds good.
Scott Monkey says, "I think Diego may be my new favorite person."
Yep. And Ular Willow is wondering if there's an invitation for unsolicited development of Tomb Digger mutagens. You mean archaeology?
It might be.
Yep. All right.
I'm not going to say yes, but I'm also not going to say no.
I'm going to give a snarky answer. If it was an invitation, then it wouldn't be unsolicited.
That's true. That's a good point. There you go. Archaeology for the archaeologist
indeed.
alchemist. So Rico the Bold has a question. Diego, why did you pick the seaweed Leshy as your avatar on the forum?
Because it is really adorable. It's really adorable, and I don't think of it as a Leshy. To me, it's my Oscar the Grouch picture.
Uh-huh.
And that's why I picked it, because a lot of times I'm grouchy.
Okay.
Really?
You're going to have trouble convincing these guys that you're grouchy after the story. Oh, Rico the Bold thought it was for Oscar the Grouch.
Oh, wow.
It's an Oscar the Grouch picture.
And typed in all caps. I figured that was why. But then
has
Rico
anybody
said
ever
it seemed inappropriate because you're never
that
grouchy.
it was Oscar the Grouch?
What?
It's a seaweed
Has anybody
Leshy.
ever looked at that picture and not think it was Oscar the Grouch?
Me, because I love Leshies.
There you go. Um, yeah, that's a good point. Let's see. Was there another? Oh yeah, Rocket Lattice points out Diego has a Patreon.
Oh, Diego,
So
the
Diego,
patron?
can you tell us a little bit about your Patreon and what your Patreon is for? And
Sure.
the link is in the chat so people can check it out.
Calling it a Patreon is probably really generous.
I mean, it is
It
literally
was,
Patreon.com.
yeah. Well, I had got it in case I ever wanted to do like creative things. I just didn't know what to do. So I have been using it as a place to store pictures of my toys that I take. So I put up some sets of pictures every week, and I have like 3 patrons, which kind of surprised me because I didn't
Yeah,
think anybody would be interested in that sort of thing.
that's
So,
$6 per
um,
month.
yeah, so yeah, it's a thing.
Very cool. So yeah, you guys
If you
can.
want to learn more
If you
about
want to learn
Diego's
more,
toys,
it's in the link, and if you're watching this from YouTube, we will try to remember to put the link on the YouTube as well, so that you can see pictures of Diego's toys.
Right now they're all Transformers, but I'm going to be putting up some more. I really want to do a big thing about like all the things I own of Anya Corazon, which is a Marvel character. She was Aranya, but now she is Spider Girl. And she is one of my favorite Marvel characters. So I have a whole bunch of like action figures, the entire run of every comic she's ever been in, a little metal miniature of her, and a whole
oh,
bunch
that's
of stuff
cool.
Oh
like
man,
that. So
I wonder if
so I
she
kind of
would.
wanted just to go ahead.
Yeah, I wonder if she would show up in if they did another Into the Spider Verse with even more spiders.
I would really appreciate it if she did. I think that's probably unlikely. Marvel doesn't use her a whole lot, which
Ah,
I think is
well, I'm
unfortunate.
sure they don't
But
use Spider Ham that often.
that's true.
And Spider Ham still ended up in Into the Spider Verse.
Spoiler alert,
Yeah,
but yeah.
which was a great movie. I recommend it if anybody hasn't seen it.
Yeah, it's really good. I think
Mm-hmm.
we were saying yesterday it's the best Sony Spider-Man.
Yeah, I think it's one of the best Spider-Man movies at all.
Yeah, really liked it.
Cool. All right, let's see. Linda, did you have any other questions on your end?
I think we covered the main things.
Okay.
Does Chad have any more questions? I know we've already taken an hour,
I've
so.
looked through chat's questions. I think we've covered them. Diego, did you have anything else you wanted to say to our viewers? Any special messages for them, or just anything else?
Um, be nice to each other on the forums. That way I don't have to go yell at you. And other than that, I don't think so.
All right.
Okay.
Cool. So,
Awesome.
thanks for being on the show, Diego, and we'll
Yeah.
say bye to Twitch and YouTube together. Actually, no. Let's say bye to YouTube first, and then tell Twitch a few things that we said at the beginning for people who just logged in. So, bye YouTube. See you next time.
Bye!
Bye, YouTube.